Hey guys, welcome back to another hair and makeup tutorial. I'm going to be showing you guys first how I turned this blonde bob into the mint color that you saw me wearing before. Shout out to Tinashe Hair Company for sending over this beautiful wig. I absolutely love it. It is a full lace wig, so you can do a lot of different styles with this, and the cut is perfect for the super hot weather that we've got going on. So let's go ahead and jump into how I dyed this hair. I did use a mixture of two different hair dyes. One is from Kiss Express. It's their semi-permanent hair dye in the shade Icy Mint, and then I used a little bit of Adora's hair dye in the shade Sweet Mint. So I used those two shades to color this hair along with some 30 volume developer, and I just went ahead and applied the dye using a applicator brush. And that's pretty much all I did for coloring. I didn't want to do too much with this hair. I think the next tutorial I'll probably do something a little bit more out the box and use like several different colors at one time, but for today I just wanted to kind of keep it simple. So once I have all the color on, I went ahead and added a processing cap, let it sit for about 25 minutes, and then from there I'm going to go ahead and start working on installing the wig. So next I'm going to start working on my wig cap. I feel like I've showed you guys this process like a couple of times, so I'm not going to go too much into detail with it. I'm just going to add my wig cap, cut little holes by my ears. I like to do that because it just makes the wig cap lie a lot flatter when I'm applying like my hairspray and everything. And then I like to use the Got To Be Freeze spray to secure my wig cap down. So I'm going to apply that right after and then just kind of dry it down using the cool setting on my blow dryer. So next it's time to cut all the excess cap off. I'm going to use a little razor blade that I like to use to kind of groom my brows sometimes. So I'm just going to carefully cut that off, make sure not to get too close to my skin. I don't want to cut myself because I have done that before and it's very painful. So just make sure to take your time and be very careful when you're doing this step. So our wig cap is looking good. I'm going to add some foundation onto my wig cap next just to make sure it blends in a lot better with that lace frontal. The one I'm using is from Jouer. It's their Essential High Coverage Cream Foundation in the shade Caramel. I'm then going to do a little bit of extra plucking. I believe that this wig already came pre-plucked, but I'm just going to do a little bit more just to make sure that the frontal is like as natural as possible. So I'm just going to use my tweezers and just go in on the hairline and thin out any areas that are a little too dense. And now it's time to start securing our lace frontal down. I'm going to be using a lace glue to secure mine down today. This one is from Esha. So I'm going to use about 2 layers of this to secure my frontal down. I'm going to spread the glue first using my rat tail comb, carefully lay the lace right on top, and then just use my blow dryer just to make sure that the glue is completely dry. So once my lace glue is all dry and molded in, I'm going to start cutting away all that excess lace. I'm using the same razor that I used to cut my wig cap. It's really, really sharp. So again, just make sure you're really careful not to cut yourself. Next, I'm going to add some baby hairs. You guys already know I love baby hairs. I love swoops, edges, whatever you want to call them. So I already trimmed mine. I'm just going to go ahead and use my wrapping foam to style them with my edge brush. And from there, I'm just going to add my satin scarf. While the hair is setting underneath my scarf, I'm gonna go ahead and do my makeup. Today was also one of those days where I wasn't really sure like how I wanted to style my hair. So I went ahead and did my makeup first and then came back and did my hair. I just went ahead and straightened it out using my flat iron and just kind of smoothed everything over using my hot comb. I did add a deep side part. I felt like that would be super cute with this bob so you can kind of see like the cut and everything. And yeah, that's pretty much all I did for this hair, guys. So now that we're all done with the hair, we can go ahead and move on to the makeup. Alright guys, so the hair is done. I'm going to start this makeup look off using the Makeup Revolution concealer in shades 12.5 and 12. These two shades I like to use to prime my eyes because one is a lot closer to my skin tone, so it looks really good on my brow bone, and the other one is slightly lighter, so I like to place it onto my lid to make sure all those shadows that I put on top of it show up nice and vibrant. So I'm just going to buff those in, and then right after I'm going to jump into shadows. The first color I'm going to be using today is from the Colored Raine Times Power palette. I'm going to be taking the shade Testify. This is one of the darker mattes in the palette. I'm going to place that directly onto the crease and just really make sure to pack it on. I want this color to be super, super pigmented. As for the palette, I've been really loving this one. Colored Raine really kicked out of the park with this palette. The colors are absolutely beautiful. The formula is perfect. It blends really well, and all the colors are super pigmented. I feel like this collaboration is like a match made in heaven somehow. I just feel like they really killed it with this. So yes, I love this palette. If you were looking for my opinion, I'm definitely loving it. And I think my favorite part about this palette is it has all these beautiful fall colors. So it's going to transition so perfectly into the fall season. The next color I'm going to go into is the shade Snitch. This is like a darker red almost. So I'm going to apply that right on top of Testify and use that to blend out the edges. I'm using a Morphe M506 for this step because it is a little bit larger than the last brush I used, which is a Morphe M507. So it's going to do a way better job of blending out the edges of our first crease color. Before I move into my third transition color, I'm going to use some of Fenty Beauty's blotting powder as usual to matte the brow area, just to make sure that the shadow I apply next applies really smoothly. And then right after, I'm going to go into the shade Deception and use this to blend out Snitch. So before I cut my crease with concealer, I'm going to use a cleansing balm first. I'm going to use this to carve out the shape that I'm going for and also make sure that the lid space is clean. So that way when I do go in with my concealer to cut my crease, the concealer doesn't blend in with those shadow colors and start changing the color of the concealer. Then next, I'm going to go ahead and cut my crease with my actual concealer. I'm using one from Makeup Revolution. This one is in the shade C1, and I'm just going to follow that same shape that I created with my cleansing balm. I'm then going to go into the shade Revenge and apply that onto the concealer that I used to cut my crease. I want to do a bit of like a gold like liner detail on top of like the ombre cut crease that we've got going on. So I'm just going to add a small amount of this really close to the edge of that cut crease. Then to create that liner effect, I'm going to go in with my makeup wipe and carve out the shape that I'm going for. So for my second cut crease, I'm going to be using a mixture of the Tinashe Color Fix in the shade Royalty along with some concealer. I'm going to create an ombre liner next. So I want it to be darker on the inside and gradually fade into a lighter color on the outside. So as the liner goes towards the outside, I'm going to add more and more concealer and less of the Color Fix to create that gradient effect. Now I'm going to add some shadows on top. I'm going to follow that dark to light scheme. So I'm going to go in with Truth, which is that darker purple in the palette on the inner portion of the cut crease. And then I'm going to go in with Respect on the middle part and then add Legacy onto the end of the cut crease. Then to make sure that that gold detailing doesn't get lost in the sauce, I'm going to add a little bit of glitter. This one is from Touch in Soul. It's like a liquid glitter in a rose gold color. I just want that area to have a little bit of extra pop so it doesn't get like lost behind all of the other colors. Then for my next cut crease, I'm going to go back in with that Tinashe Color Fix in that purple shade, and using the same technique that I did with our last cut crease, I'm going to do that for this one. Instead, this time I'm going from lightest to darkest rather than darkest to lightest. So at the inner portion of the cut crease, I'm going to make sure to use a little bit more concealer and less Color Fix. And then as I work my way outward, I'm going to use more Color Fix and less concealer. And again, just like our last cut crease, we're going from lightest to darkest. So I'm going to go in with those same metallic shades and apply those directly onto the lid to continue that ombre. So it's going to go Legacy on the inner part, Respect on the middle, and then Truth on the outer part. So I went ahead and cleaned up the eye using a makeup wipe off camera. I'm going to do a cleanup now using some concealer and a little bit of Tinashe Color Fix in that purple shade. I'm not using too much though, just enough to kind of make the concealer a little bit more lavender looking. I'm going to use that on the outer edge of that cut crease and drag it all the way up into the second cut crease that we did. So the one from darkest to lightest. Then once we have our concealer down, I'm going to add some shadow on top of that as well. I'm going into the shade Legacy. I then did my last cleanup off camera using my makeup wipe on the very outer edge of my eye. So from there, I went in with all those shadows that we added onto the crease and applied those onto the outer edge of our cut crease to create that illusion of negative spacing on the outer corner. I felt like the look was missing something at this point, and I really wanted to use these liquid glitters that also came with the new Power collection. So I went in with the purple shade and I went ahead and applied that onto the innermost portion of that cut crease. I kind of wanted a little bit more going on, like a little bit more kind of like, So I went in with a second glitter, and this one is by Flutteredbyro. It's their purple chunk glitter, and I just added that right on top before the liquid glitter dried all the way down. I'm then going to add some mascara to my top lashes because I am going to be putting on falsies today, of course. I'm using the Better Than Sex mascara from Too Faced. Then for false lashes, I'm going to go in with some Tatti lashes. These are the TL Mitchells, so they're in collaboration with Mama Mitchell on Instagram. I love these lashes so much. So I'm just going to pop these babies on with some tweezers, and then I'm going to move right on to skin. So now that the eyes are done, I'm going to go ahead and prep my skin first using the Farsali Unicorn Serum. I'm going to add a couple of drops to my skin and then just buff everything out using a dual fiber brush. And then to prime, I'm going to use Laura Mercier's original primer. This one works for all different skin types. I'm going to add a few dots of that onto the skin as well, and then blend it away using that same dual fiber brush. Then for foundation, I'm going to be using the new Beauty Bakerie Insta Bake Aqua Glass Foundation. I'm in the shade 315W. I've been really loving this one because it is a lot lighter in coverage, and you guys know I've been really into that lately. And to blend that out, I'm just going to use my Morphe sponge. And for spot correcting, I'm going to also use the Beauty Bakerie Insta Bake Concealer. This one, I believe, is in the shade number 4. So I'm just going to add that onto the under eyes, the sides of the mouth, and just any areas that probably need the extra coverage. So for me, I have like little acne scars on my chin and some darkness around my mouth as well as my under eyes. So I usually like to apply it in those areas. And then to brighten the face, I'm going to use a second concealer. This one is from Revolution Pro. I believe it's like along the same line as like Makeup Revolution. And this is their ultimate coverage concealer in the shade 11.2. And because I'm looking to brighten, I'm just going to add this on all the areas that I want to be like highlighted. So underneath the eyes, a little bit on the nose. Once the concealer is in place, I'm going to go back in with my Morphe sponge and just make sure everything is really well blended into that foundation. Then to set everything in place, I'm going to use my sponge and a little bit of Laura Mercier's translucent powder. And then for the rest of the face, I'm gonna go in with a very, very, very small amount of pressed powder. This one is from CoverGirl and their Full Spectrum line. It is their Matte Ambition pressed powder. I'm not entirely sure what the shade of this one is, but I'll make sure to put it down below in the description box for you guys. I'm then gonna go in with some bronzer. This one is from Anastasia. I just wanna bring some warmth back into the skin and some extra dimension because I don't do like a lot of contouring and stuff. So the only thing that kind of brings back like shape into my skin is bronzer. I like to use a little bit on the hairline and everything, as well as the cheekbones, just to kind of sculpt those areas a lot more. And it'll also just bring some extra warmth into the skin. You guys know I've been obsessed with blush now, so I was really excited when I saw these little blush duos that Raine was going to come out with the Power collection. As soon as I saw the peach duo in person, I just knew I had to use the blush side. So I went ahead and used that color for blush today. I'm really, really loving these little blush duos, guys. I think after the palette, this is like my next like favorite out of the collection. I'm also going to use that duo for highlighter, but I'll show you guys like which shade I switched to later on. So next, I'm just going to go ahead and move back to the eyes. I added some liner. This one is from Urban Decay. It's their 24/7 liner in the shade Psychedelic Sister. It's just like your typical like kind of deep purple liner. So I went ahead and added that onto the waterline and the lower lash line. I'm then going to start smoking out the lower lash line with some shadow. I'm first going to go in with the shade Testify just to make sure that the lower lash line is nice and smoky. And because I just feel like this color is so beautiful, I'm gonna go in with Truth and just use that right on top of Testify to give that lower lash line a little bit of extra color. And then to highlight the brow bone and inner corner, I just went back in with that shade Legacy. Next, I'm going to apply some lash primer. This one is from L'Oreal. It's their Voluminous Lash Primer. And I love using this on my lower lashes before mascara because my lashes are itty bitty and they don't pick up any mascara at all. So this just helps them grab onto mascara better, so my lashes look a lot fuller. Usually while my lash primer is drying, I like to do my brows. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do now. I'm not gonna do too much with my brows at all. I'm gonna use a little bit of Anastasia's Dip Brow Gel in the shade Dark Brown just to kind of fill them in and make them a little bit fuller. And then for extra definition, just to kind of touch up a few areas, I'm going to use the Anastasia Dip Brow Pomade in the shade Ebony. But this is mostly going on the tail of my brow because that's usually where my brows are the most sparse. And now that our lash primer is dry, I'm going to go back in with some mascara. I'm just going to use that same Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara. Next, it's time for some setting spray. I'm going to be using a new one from LA Girl. They just launched a new setting spray, I think a priming spray and some glowy type of sprays for face and body. So I'm just going to use this to set the makeup and make sure it lasts all day long. And I like to dry it down like about 75% of the way down before I go into highlighter. To highlight, I'm also going to use the blush duo from the Colored Raine and Power collection. This one, I believe, is in the shade Damage Control. I'm going to be using the highlighter side side of this one and just hit all the high points of my face. So cheekbones, nose, cupid's bow. And I'm so sorry I didn't tell you guys the shade name of the blush one. That one was Call the Shots. So that peachy one that I used for blush was Call the Shots. And then for highlighter, I used Damage Control. So now I'm going to go ahead and start working on my lips. I'm first going to line them using a lip pencil from MAC. This one is in the shade Plum. I love using this lip pencil for pinky nude shades. So I'm just going to line my lips first with that. Next, I'm going in with ColourPop's lip pencil in the shade Pitch. I'm only going to use a very small amount of this on the outer edge of my lips though, just to give them a little bit of extra definition. Then to fill in the lips, I'm going to use another product from the Power collection. This is a liquid lipstick in the shade Suspect. It's a super cute like pinky nude. This shade is a little on the lighter side, so I'm just going to make sure to blend it really well into that lip liner. And of course, I just had to use the lip gloss from the Power collection. This one is in the shade Distro, and it's so pretty, guys. It's like this duochrome lip gloss with like pink sparkles in it. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just so cute. And that is pretty much it for the look, loves. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. Thank you so much for sticking with me through 26 minutes and 57 seconds of this video. I love you guys, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.